this is what we're going to have here, the amp second per meter squared. Now an amp second represents a concentration of charge, because an amp is current, and how many seconds represents an accumulation of current for a given time. So an amp second is a coulomb. Okay, so I'm talking here about a quantity of charge which has been brought together. And I'm saying the influence of this charge spreads throughout the universe. But when you say, how much is it spread out, you take that charge and say, as it's spread out in 3 dimensions, and I'm going to draw a little patch here to suggest that it's spreading out in 3 dimensions. Yeah, okay. And it's spreading through all space, okay. You took the total surface area of which is spread, which is so many meters squared. Okay, you're measuring a surface area over which that influence is spread. So you're talking about the source of charge spread over so many square meters of surface. Okay, that represents an amount of charge, causing an electrical situation to exist throughout the universe. It's measured in ampere seconds per meter squared. Okay. So what we got now is 2 situations which are kind of troublesome, because we can describe the electric field in 2 ways. We can say, here's the source of it, which is so many ampere seconds, and it's spread over so many square meters. So that describes the field. Or we can go far away from it and say, well, right here, the charge represents an amount of force which will push another charge with a certain force, okay, which is your volt per meter, which is a local description. But how, if you know one of them, how do you know the other one? How do you go back and forth, vice versa between them? Okay, now I'm going to show you how you do it. Now I don't know why this works, but here's how it works. If we look between volts per meter and amps per meter, okay, to go from volts to amps, you got to divide by ohms. Okay, and I'm saying you're going to have to divide by 377 ohms. Okay, going in this direction. Going from volts per meter to amps per meter, you divide by 370, because that's Ohm's law. Ohms times amps equals volts. Okay, so I'm dividing by ohms here, and why is it 377 ohms? God only knows. This is what you do. Now, I'm going to go from amps per meter to amp seconds per meter squared. Now, if you look carefully, you notice I got a second on the top, and I got a meters on the bottom. So the only difference between amps per meter and amp seconds per meter squared is I'm dividing through by meters per second. So I'm going to go in this direction. I'm going to divide by meters per second. How many meters per second do you think I should divide by?
3 times 10 to the 8?
Why not? 3 times 10 to the 8. Speed of light. Okay. Because, I mean, it's physics, and any time some velocity comes up out of the blue in physics, it's got to be the speed of light. What else is it going to be? Okay. Now, this ohms thing also had a name. It was the impedance of free space. Okay. It's 370. Number they call the impedance of free space, and I can't tell you what it means right now. But there it is. You divide by 370 of ohms, and divide again by 3 times 10 to the 8. And now you got the relation between electric field description in terms of the source of charge which is causing it. Now, if I know the source of charge, I can tell how much it's spread out. And then if I go far away, I want to know how hard it's going to push on another charge. I multiply by 3 times 10 to the 8. I multiply again by 377 ohms, and I got it described in terms of force. It's a fantastic thing. Okay. But, you see, what is this amps per meter doing in here? You see? Now I'm going to tell you this amps per meter has nothing to do with electrostatics. This is about magnetics. Okay. Now, this is all about magnetics, you see. Now, this is unbelievable, because what is an amp per meter? Okay. What it means is you got a wire, and current flows in the wire. So we draw an arrow to represent the current flow in the wire. So it's amps. And what we say is that this current flowing in the wire sets up rings of magnetic force which circulate around the wire like this. Okay. Now you set up circulating magnetic forces around that wire. And how much is it? How much magnetic force did you set up? Okay. Now what you do is you look at how long this ring is, and let's say this ring is 1 meter long, which is drawn around the wire, and let's say it was 1 amp flowing through that circle. Okay, the magnetic force is 1 amp per meter. Okay, in terms, now this is a magnetic description described in terms of the source, 1 amp per meter. So you see, just as you had an electrostatic description where you took your amp second per meter squared, which was your collection of charge, and you said it was spread out over this way. So you're describing the electrostatic field in terms of the source. Now you can also describe the magnetostatic field in terms of its source, but now you're talking amps per meter. But you've only described it in terms of the source. What you failed to do is to describe how hard it'll push on another magnet, haven't you? And the terms in which you're going to do that turns out to be the volt-seconds per meter squared. Okay. And to go from the amps per meter to the volt-seconds per meter squared, you divide by 3 times 10 to the 8th, and going this way, oh, this time we're going to multiply by 377 ohms because we're going back the other direction, you see? Everything goes in circles, and God knows why this all works. I mean, there's a lot of things that work. There's a lot of things that work out. I can't begin to tell you, why this all makes sense. So let's just do a song instead. Sit down. Sit down for a minute. We'll come back to it. Don't worry. So you've got your volts and your amps, and you turn them around, and it looks like you're talking about the same thing, but actually you're talking about something completely different because, hell with it. This is a song. Don't be afraid to hold me tight. You know I won't break into what we're doing here tonight. Should it's what we're going through. We both loved and lost people. Calling out the melody on this one. Know the sadness it can bring. Tonight let's close the door and hold on to the nearest thing. Let's keep hanging on so we don't fall apart. Let's make love again like we never had a broken heart. Tonight let's just pretend we've been in love right from the start. Let's make love again like we never had a broken heart. Don't be afraid to hold me close.
We missed a verse.
You gotta be kidding.
Yeah. We went right into the to the lead. We worked so hard to get the words, and then we missed an entire verse.
Yeah, we do know the words. You see, we did this song on the show once before,
We
and
did that verse on the show before. We
No, well-
finally got the word to the other verse.
we pointed out, at the time that the chord structure of that song was the same as "Take the Ribbons from Your Hair." So we just sang the words to "Take the Ribbons from Your Hair" in the middle part. But this time we actually had them, and we missed them. Okay,
We'll do it again.
we'll do it again someday. Yeah. All right. How do you like this map so far?
Good now.
You gotta be
It's
kidding,
beautiful.
Sharon.
It's beautiful.
Sharon, the people are laughing at you because every time I ask you my topic said you good, you say, "It's good, Marty. It's good." They know you're just saying it because I'm your brother. Okay. But I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Okay, but how good could it be? How good could it be? Okay, everything goes back and forth now. And now the funny thing about this square, remember we said we're going to describe all these electric and magnetic things in terms of volts per meter, amps per meter, amp seconds per meter squared and volt seconds per meter squared. Now, what I did is I gave you quite a legitimate description in terms of electrostatic terms of why you got your amp seconds per meter squared, which represents your amp seconds as your concentration of charge, spreading out over so many square meters. You know, so this is one good way of describing the field. And then when we went to your volts per meter, which was a local thing describing how hard that field was pushing on a charge in terms of the volts per meter, that it was quite a different description. And to go from this description to that description, you worked around the map, multiplying by the speed of light and multiplying by the 377 ohms, the impedance of free space. Okay, and that brought you around from one to the other. And then I talked about this magnetic stuff, and I sort of gave a phony description which doesn't really come to grips with the issues because they're a little different here. Why you can describe your magnetic field in terms of an amps per meter, which is kind of a source-type description. You got a current of so much amperage, and it creates loops of magnetism around the wire. And you look at how long that loop is, and you divide it by the amperage of the wire, and that represents a description of the magnetic field in terms of the strength of the source which is creating it. And I'm asking you to sort of believe that in order to go now to the other kind of description, which is a local description of the magnetic field, saying how hard it's pushing on another magnet. You got to work around this square in the opposite direction. Multiply by the speed of light and multiply again by the ohms of free space. Okay, you get to this thing called a volt second per meter squared. If I'm sort of BSing you there to tell you the honest truth. But I can't, you know, I can't apologize for that now. Do you like the T-shirt, by the way? It's a souvenir from Egypt. My brother went to Egypt, but actually, I have, Egyptians are beautiful people. I'd like to say hi to my Egyptian friends at the university who I used to work with there. And Khalid as well. He's not Egyptian, but he's the same basic, you know, character kind of guy. And, you know, the Arabs are wonderful people. It makes me wonder why we're killing each other over in the Middle East there. And I would like to, you know, take this opportunity to remind the leaders of the Middle Eastern countries of the massive Marty peace plan which we had on 2 years ago and still stands, in my opinion, as the best hope for a lasting, just solution to the Middle East. Well, actually, never mind that. And it's actually Sheriff, Abu Hassan, and Amr are the guys I was wanted to say hi to specifically, and why not Sam and Abraham as well if they're watching. So hi to the Egyptians in the audience. Okay. Now back to this math stuff. Okay. Now here's where you get the real magic of this stuff. Is I got this square here and I got volts and amps. Now all I'm going to say is if I take volts per meter and amps per meter and I multiply them together, okay, I got volts times amps is power, okay, it's watts. Volts times amps is watts, and meters times meters is meters squared. So if I multiply these three things together, volts per meter and amps per meter, I've got watts per meter squared. Okay. So what have I got? I got something describing an electrical field, and I got something that describes a magnetic field. I'm saying I want to multiply them together. And the answer I come up with describes a power density, watts per meter squared. Okay. Now what does it mean? And here's what it means, and it's so simple it's unbelievable. Okay. Is that the light that comes to you from the sun consists of tiny electric force vectors and tiny magnetic force vectors, which means what we call the fields in space, traveling, linked together, washing energy back and forth between each other. Electricity and magnetism vibrating back and forth across the countless miles of space. Okay. And the strength of the electric forces, it has so many volts per meter, and the strength of the magnetic forces is in so many amps per meter. And, you know, if I sit here in the studio and take a charge in a piece of wire and I set up some magnetism and I set up some electricity, I could have, you know, so much volts per meter and so much amps per meter, and because they're created from different sources, they could have any different strengths with respect to each other whatsoever. They're completely independent. But when you get this light traveling from the sun, that it's left the sun and it's traveled 100 million miles to Earth, and when it's halfway in between, and it consists of electrical energy and magnetic energy vibrating back and forth between each other. There's a very precise relationship between those two forms of energy, which is exactly the ratio of 377 to 1. Okay. The ratio of the electric field strength to the magnetic field strength. It's exactly 377 ohms ratio. It's the characteristic impedance of free space. Describes a parameter whereby which all radiation in the universe travels along with. Okay. And so the energy coming from the sun, we describe it in terms of electric forces measured in volts per meter, magnetic forces represented in amps per meter, and when we multiply the two of them together, we get volt-amps per meter squared, which is the power density coming from the sun, which, as we all know, by the time it reaches this planet, is 2,000 watts per meter squared. And let's just break that up. It's got to be 377 to 1. So that represents, the energy from the sun represents an average electric force of about, oh, let's just write at the bottom. It's got to come to 377 to 1, and it's got to, oh, I'd say it's probably a good, let's say it's 900 volts per meter times 2.5 amps per meter. Okay. This is the energy from typical sunlight. Constitutes of electrical forces measured as 900 volts per meter and magnetic forces represented by 2.5 amps per meter. You notice the ratio is 377 ohms between them, and that when you multiply them two of them together, you get 2,000 watts per meter squared, more or less, like the power density which falls on the Earth every day. Well, it's actually 1,000 by the time it hits the surface, because the UV, the ozone layer blocks a whole bunch of it. Stuff scatters back. That's the basic idea. Is that something? Is that kind of good? Now, don't flatter me now, Sharon. You can tell me it sucks.
I'm not saying anything now.
Okay, now I'm humiliating myself. She's nice enough to come on my show and make me sound good by putting in all those nifty harmonies, you know. All those nifty harmonies. And just, you know, and here's a song. It's a beautiful folk song. Last time we did this Bob Dylan folk song, and now we got a Joan Baez folk song. Just like what a hog I am, instead of letting Sharon sing it solo, just like Joan Baez, I'm going to make her do the harmony for me. You see, so we'll play it in G. Is that awful? Okay. See how good it sounds when you sing it solo in D. Nothing to prove, everything's still the same. Just a table standing empty by the edge of the sea. Means farewell, Angelina. The sky is trembling, and I must leave. The Jack and the Queen have forsaken the courtyard. 52 gypsies now file past the guard. In space where the dudes and the A's once ran wild. Farewell, Angelina, the sky is falling. I'll see you in a while. See the cross-eyed pirate sit perched in the sun, shooting a sawed-off shotgun, and the neighbors, they clap and they cheer with each blast. Farewell, Angelina, the sky is changing colors, and I must leave fast. Heat corn, little elves on the rooftops, they dance Valentino-type tangos while they make and stand. Shut the eyes of the dead, not to embarrass anyone. Farewell, Angelina, the sky
of his heat rocks, and friends nailed time bombs to the hands of the clock. Call me any name you like, I will never deny it. But farewell, Angelina, the sky is erupting, I must go where it's quiet.
Now the song is over, we're still on the air, and someone's got to explain those words, right? Oh, they've killed us now, thank God. Okay. You do another song while they put those nifty graphics up?
Yeah, let's do something.